creator economy for users, builders, and artists.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. So as Olga was explaining, we're going to discuss mainly about the creator economy and how creators, artists, and even general users can monetize out of creating their content. Starting first, letting the panelists to introduce themselves, and we're going to jump straight into the discussion itself. Tyler?
Yeah, I'm Tyler, and I'm core with communications at CrowdMuse, and basically what we are doing is bringing intellectual property for creators on the blockchain. So we're starting with fashion, where a fashion designer would upload their IP, and then they would get revenue sharing with the monetization of that. So if a brand uses it, they would get money automatically through that.
Hi, my name is Gagan, and so we basically focus on two things with GDS Consulting. One is the marketing aspect, and the other being the investment fundraising consulting. So on the marketing side, we do Web3, Web2 marketing, and on the consulting side, we do like term sheet creation, fundraising, investment consulting, and so forth. So that's the brief.
Hi everyone, I'm Zach. I'm a bit of a creator myself. I love the mix of business and arts. And we have a community called NFT Club where we empower creatives, we educate them about NFTs. I myself developed intellectual property. I started a company called Archipels, which basically revives Maltese culture into like a Disney of sorts. And that's about it.
Great. So, starting from our first discussion, I would say is how potentially, creators can monetize out of their own content. And knowing that there's various platforms nowadays, if it's YouTube, Twitch, but then obviously on the Web3 side and blockchain side, they're creating various functionalities that one can create, a community behind it. So I would say it's very interesting to look at the market itself and educate content creators how they can truly monetize out of their content itself, if it's art, music, or even just creating products. So curious, like Tyler, from your end, how do you see this evolving, and for a content creator to making his utmost out of creating his own content and to get it out there globally?
Well, I mean, basically what Web3 did is it made it easier for people to access their audience. So the theory of 1,000 true fans is truer with this model because you basically can release, for example, NFTs at various different price points to capture revenue all along the demand curve of your audience. It provides a direct monetization avenue for creators who already have audiences, but the issue there is that if you don't have an audience, you still don't have an easy solution, right? So one of the things that we believe is the future is co-creation on the blockchain, which is starting to emerge a lot in fashion, where you can basically, so for example, like a designer has a concept, they release it, and then as an up-and-coming designer, you can remix that, and the original person who made that design will benefit from royalty sharing because you use their IP, but then you can also benefit from exposure because you're jumping on a trend of an already popular designer. So it's kind of like composability, but also utilizing each other's talents as a launchpad.
So I feel that nowadays the creators have diverse options, and pretty much they can keep it unique to their content and their audience. For instance, NFTs came into play, and it was kind of a revolutionary thing for many people to start monetizing their digital assets. And similarly, there are like subscription-based models that are coming up now for Web3, blockchain in specific, based out of that. Microtransactions are coming into play, wherein small transaction based on blockchain can be initiated to support the content creator that the audience is following. So I would say that there are several diversified option strategies currently in play.
Zach?
I mean, there are many. Me being a creator, I've explored many of them. NFTs obviously was an amazing one that had, I would say, a big bubble that's at least now started settling down and is going back up. But there are many things, such as, like, for example, educating people. You can use stuff like Skillshare. They're not necessarily Web3, but they're based on Web2. So, for example, Substack, for example, you can even pay and get to know certain information. Intellectual property is also a very, very interesting avenue. With intellectual property, you develop something and you can license it out. You can earn royalties. I mean, really and truly, Web3 is kind of based on that with the royalties. There are many different avenues.
And I would say it's a good point that you guys are mentioning. It's all about creating a sort of synergy. What the content is being pushed out there. Like Zach from your end. Creating multiple NFT projects. Even I would say the fan engagement subscription model that can stand out behind every project itself. Tyler, you mentioned like a good point as well. When fashion, we're seeing multiple brands. If it's Nike, Adidas, they're getting out their own traditional content side, but even then synergizing across NFTs, tokens, to create that fan engagement and for I would say targeting new audiences. But from a community side, what are like I would say the beneficial aspects of it's not just creating an NFT project like we're discussing, Zach. Everyone can create an NFT project nowadays. There were thousands of NFT projects created in the past 2 years, but I would say it's only like 5 to 10% that are still around. So when it comes to the community side, how do you guys like see it? The best approach to keep your audience engaged and keep on coming for more, and even to provide value to them, and to push out their content and to do something similar, I would say.
Well, I think one of the biggest mistakes that NFT projects made was providing too much supply too quickly, right? So if you're going to talk strictly about maintaining value for your community, then you have to, not release various forms of derivatives one after the other, because what you're doing is you have to remember every time you put a token on the blockchain, people automatically assign a monetary value to it, right? That's the floor price. It's the first thing that people associate with that token. So if you produce a lot of them, then you're getting rid of the element of scarcity, and then your community thinks that there is, there becomes fewer and fewer people and more tokens, right? So you have to focus on nurturing quality with that select group, and if you can get, even like 10 or 100 people who are your evangelists, who are the ones who will go run around and talk about how awesome you are, that's more important than having something that's more dilutive in terms of token supply.
For sure, I agree. Gangit?
See, I feel that creators economy is kind of a multifaceted. This involves a multifaceted approach, involving authenticity, engagement, and strategic thinking. So, in terms of authenticity, the creators can more sort of focus on how they want to bring value to their audience rather than just putting the content out. So that is one thing. They pretty much want to get some value out of it to create authenticity and trust. And then engagement, they can have different ways, different things rather than the basic content being pushed out. They need to provide an engagement, and then strategic thinking is another part of it wherein they curate their content. So I think this is how you are most probably going to nurture your audience and build the trust in the community.
No, for sure. And as you guys are mentioning, it's important that we give something new to the audience itself, rather. Again, as mentioned, there's various NFT projects. A lot of them are like replicated and became to a certain point saturated as well. And that's, I believe, as well a part of the hype itself of creating an NFTs just on general. And as Tyler was mentioning, having them on the blockchain, I do believe that, we need to provide sort of value of being part of a community itself. Even from an educational side, learning, this is still very early. People are still trying to identify what is truly an NFT itself. It's sort of, we had content creations in the past, but eventually we accelerated to a new dimension when it comes to diversifying our reach and audiences. But Zach, what's your take on this?
I would say, at least from the experience that we have with NFT Club, NFTs or any kind of community, it's all about educating or entertaining people. You have to show some kind of form of value. But really and truly, the ones that really stood out and stayed there for the longest of times are those who innovated, who tried to create their value as well. Like, for example, artifacts, what they're doing with fashion, and they were acquired by Nike. I mean, they're creating innovative shoes that integrate with Web3 through NFC tags. I mean, these things, they stand the test of time. They're stories that get to be shared.
For sure. Jumping on the technology side, I would say, there's like various products like XCAT, Kick, which is similar to Twitch, that everyone is monetizing out it, if it's streamers, influencers, and so on. Obviously, there's a lot of emerging technologies, various platforms that one can look into, but if I had to outline, I would say, the main technologies that one should look into creating, if it's creating an NFT project, or as just even creating artwork or digitizing their own content itself. I don't know, Tyler, like from your end, what do you see the most beneficial for one another to get into itself, to get the most out of it and what they're creating?
Well, I mean, like you mentioned, Artifact, that's what we're doing with Crowd News, is phygital NFTs or digiphysical, whatever you want to call it. But, in order for crypto to actually scale, we need to look at real consumer use cases, right? And just making an NFT because it's representing some abstract thing in a community, it worked for some time, but now people are actually questioning, what is this NFT going to give me? So when you have a phygital NFT, it's actually proof of ownership of, for example, like a pair of shoes, right? And you can show people not only that you own it in real life by wearing it, but you can also show it online, which is now what's really important, because it's always interesting when people say, I don't understand NFTs. Why would people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a picture of a monkey? It's the identity economy, right? So Gen Z grew up completely dialed into the internet. Their whole identity is, more of their identity is on the internet than it is in the real world. So for them, who they portray themselves to be in that digital world is more important for their status than actually what they're doing outside here.
See, I feel that the impact of technology on the creative collaboration right now is pretty huge. For instance, decentralized, secure, and transparent platforms are coming up, and we can see that blockchain at the core of it, with the smart contracts in play. Everything is pretty much transparent for content creators now, and they can get a transparent and just pay. Plus, it's transparent for the community to see what's happening. So I feel that technology plays a major role, and then AR VR comes into play at a later stage, wherein they can further engage with their audience in a very without geographical boundaries, I would say. So that is what I would suggest in the technology sense.
Good point as well, because obviously we need to keep in mind that markets work differently, so it falls down to which market it is. Like a good example is, LATAM, Brazil, the governments are working to create identification for their citizens as NFTs created on the blockchain, which eventually I believe that it will help to accelerate and even to mass adopt the understanding and educational part of what is an NFT. Like Tyler is mentioning, it's not just a JPEG or a monkey or an ape. There's a community behind it. People feel that they're part of a real community, that they can leverage their expertise as well and learn from one another. A part as well, which I see is helping, is that they can collaborate. So let's say, you have an artist versus another artist, they can work together, as we're seeing the big brands like Nike, Adidas as well, and even as mentioned by Zach, creating sneakers, which, everyone likes sneakers, and eventually you have a digital asset that you can take in the metaverse or a virtual world. But yeah, Zach, like from your end, being diversified across all of these technologies.
In terms of platforms, I would say first thing that I've learned is create a freaking smart contract. That is the biggest lesson I learned. Create your own smart contract and then create your own collection. If you don't do that, you won't get your royalties. Even now, they're not enforcing royalties, but fuck it, you can't do anything. OpenSea is a great platform, super easy to use. I highly recommend using Twitter. That's where all the Web3 people are. Discord also. I mean, these three will get you started in Web3. And I think that's all that is really needed.
A good point, like mentioning Twitter, nowadays Twitter, you can monetize out of it by just creating content. You can get paid in Bitcoin or Ethereum. You can even create subscription models, which, we can pay for verified as well. So I see that, as the big brands, when it comes to the social network side, TikTok is another good example. I'm pretty sure that Instagram will be rolling out how to monetize as well, which NFTs, there's a lot of NFT artists that put up their projects across Instagram itself. But yes, like from a future side, if we had to look in the next 5 years, content creators, where will they be? If it's on a platform side or events, collaborations, the metaverse is another good initiative that we see, that we have the physical and virtual world synergizing from one side to another. But yeah, like I'm curious from you guys, like how do you see the future being created around all of this? If it's Web3, blockchain, especially as mentioned by Zach, the smart contracts, it's easy saying creating a smart contract, but from where should a user start creating a smart contract itself? I don't know, Tyler, if you want to start from where.
Well, I mean, the technical side of it is going to get easier and easier because it's going to get abstracted by like social sign-in types of things, right? So if I had to envision a future for the creator economy with the blockchain involved, it would also have AI, where a creator, for example, like music is already doing this, where the music is broken down into stems, right? And then you would have AI which would be scanning to find the connections and see whether it is copying something. So you could say, for example, a musician creates a song and then it's like 90% similar to an already famous song. So that already famous song, the artist has rules where they get, let's say, 5% royalty. Because the AI matches it at a 90% similarity, then 4.5%, for example, of the royalties would automatically get streamed back to the owner of that, right? And if you think about the capabilities for, back to fashion, you have a designer puts that up on the blockchain, and then let's say Burberry comes along and says, I'm going to use that on my t-shirt, right? Then the designer doesn't have to go to court and fight because the AI automatically allocates that ownership to the person who originally put it up there, because they can see proof of provenance, the time, the date, when it was put on the blockchain, and then it automatically allocates a portion of the sales from that Burberry product to that person who came up with the original idea. So, we still have a way to go to actually get that into reality, but that's what I mean by composable IP, is that, the potential is limitless, because the whole idea of copyright law is very new, right? It's a relatively modern concept, when the art of creation, we've been doing this for centuries, and creativity is borderless. But the whole copyright law is necessary in order to build businesses. It's how Disney, for example, built an empire, right? We need copyright law, but we need a way for it to be more open to foster better creative conditions.
See, in my opinion, for instance, artificial intelligence combined with machine learning, it can create kind of a easy way for content creators to focus on creating content, and rather than focusing on their day-to-day management. And then, of course, then AR, VR can come into play, wherein they can be more immersive experiences being provided to their audience. And besides that, we'll have, as we've already mentioned, the smart contracts, which will pretty much sort out the revenue sharing aspect of their lives. And then, of course, blockchain is going to play a major role in several other aspects. So I think that's going to be the future in terms of technology and creators.
Nice. I really like that idea, by the way, about actually automatically being informed that someone is using your IP or your copyright. I wonder why they haven't done it as yet. It's just
it's not an easy thing to execute. Because
when you think about it, like Google informs you, like if something has been mentioned, like your brand or something.
Oh yeah. No, I was talking about that this morning, right? Like YouTube, it automatically says copyright infringement. Why should it violate it? Why can't it not just stream revenue, right?
Exactly, and some royalties being forced. That's such a great idea. I want to approach the question a little different. Where the future goes, I don't know, but what I know for certain is that money flows where there's attention. And it seems like nowadays the creator economy is empowering people that they don't even need to be specifically talented or skilled for today's industry. They can have a niche interest. They can love washing, I don't know, kittens in rubber bands. I don't know. I'm just coming up with something silly. But if they have attention, they can generate money from that. And with today, with like the YouTube model and the Twitter model, it seems like that's where it's heading. As long as you create content and you entertain or you add value to someone, that's where the future will head.
No, I totally agree, and very good points by mentioning another industry as well that is tapping into this is the music industry. There's various DJs creating music, sharing it with their fans, creating NFTs, just creating the music itself, if it's clips, videos, and so on. But I do see this will accelerate in various areas. And even it will be more beneficial as well for a content creator and to invite new content creators. And a good point that you guys just mentioned now is niching down the project itself. At the end of the day, we need to push and niche for the communities to feel, the pure value of what is being created and to feel sort of at home and to synergize with one another from the brand itself. I don't know if there's any questions from the audience. We have a couple of more time left regarding what we're discussing.
So I'm a journalist by background and education, and this is actually one of my favorite topics out there for creator economy. And we've been discussing this with my colleagues a lot lately. Maybe this is specific to our profession, but can you imagine when I was at the university, when I was starting my career, the biggest dream was to go to work at a TV station or a radio station or a magazine, because it was the only credible platform with the relevant audience that you could use, to apply your skills as a writer, as a, I don't know, investigator, reporter, something like that. What changed nowadays with digitization of media, right, and with the appearance of social media, is anyone can have their own platform. There are tricky ways because there are bots that you can buy, there are likes that you can buy, there are followers that you can buy. I mean, we won't go deeper into that. What's in your opinion is there a next shift for people like me, let's say, for a traditional journalist who had to at one point absolutely shift their paradigm from traditional media techniques and practices to something that many people thought was the thing for younger kids, like for teenagers, right? So for example, the gaming element, my kid is almost 12. He knows about games a lot more than me, even though I work in the industry, right? And I'm like, listen, we have to get you a Web3 wallet. We have to get you on all these play to earn games. So by the age of 18, you might have something, on your crypto account. So so how do you think the next generation will act in the digital media sphere? And what are the things that us, older people, boomers, traditional media people, what do we need to change in our, paradigm and in our perspective of the whole industry? It's a long one, I'm sorry.
It's a good question, huh?
Tyler, you want to go yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to say exactly how, the next generation will be using the tools and technology. I mean, I'm of the firm belief that the blockchain is very much like the internet, where it's a layer of infrastructure, a technology that you won't even know you're interacting with, right? And there are various protocols. I mean, even like the UAE government puts a lot of identification on the blockchain, and people don't even know, but that's how you verify the the provability of the certificates of the people who you interact with. So what will happen is the next generation will have, I don't like the term, I don't like the term play to earn, but maybe play and earn, right? Because the reason why you play a game is because you want to have fun, right? But
how about work to earn?
Work to earn,
Create
yeah, exactly.
to earn as well.
Well,
you can watch to learn as well today. Watch to earn.
I know, yeah, but that's basically just glorified click farming, right? So, basically, the whole to earn purpose is an extrinsic value, when a lot of this is intrinsically motivating. People do it because they love to create, to play, to do things like that, right? And so then, users of the next generation will be interacting with platforms without even knowing that they're using blockchain enabled things. And then if they want to go in the back end and learn about it, they will. Just like we use our iPhones, we connect to the internet, we don't know anything about DNS records or how the App Store is developed, right? So at that point in time, like the way that I explained earlier, I believe that there will be smoother connections, because the problem with the internet is we've got just way too much noise, way too much junk on there. And it's just really hard to filter. And AI is basically like our magic wand that helps to sift through all of that information. And then the blockchain is the financial layer that allows you to own things, right? So then you'll have high degrees of curation, degrees of ownership, and therefore also higher, greater opportunities for monetization.
I think Tyler pretty much covered everything. What I also want to convey. So, you.
The only thing I would add is the younger the audience, they seem like they're more adaptive to technology.
Absolutely.
And like even I see my younger brother, my younger sister, they know how to use social media. They teach me a thing or two when I'm in the industry. So, I mean, it becomes second nature to them.
We need to keep up. Okay, thank you everyone. Thanks a lot. I had another question about AI, but we'll talk about it tomorrow because we're going to have a dedicated AI track tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So 3 hours of AI content. Make sure to be here. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Thank you.